this is Christine Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Fani Willis drama and the Georgia case with Trump. People are speculating whether it's going to be dropped due to some ethics issues with Fani, or even if she steps aside, is that going to delay the case months or even years, which would totally throw the steam out of the case. Because there's a big difference if it's going to take place in August, right before the election, and people hear a bunch of stuff about Trump and what they would deem as inappropriate behavior before the election, and I'm assuming they wanted to hurt him in the polls and stuff. But if they have to delay it sometime due to issues with Fani, they might not get what they want there. So Trump has a remarkable talent for having terrible enemies. Like, even if he does bad things or is like, doesn't like, why did you say that thing? Or, oh, I wish he wouldn't have did that. There's still somebody else who dislikes him more, who's coming for him, that is just like terribly corrupt or terribly incompetent. And, Joe, for an example, being his chief political rival right now. So we'll talk about that. Also, you guys have maybe seen by now the video footage of some police officers who were attacked in New York by some illegal migrants who came, and they're already released on bail. So everyone's pretty disturbed by that. And so Kathy Hochul, who's the governor, is like, well, we need to really look into that. We need to really look into it. I'm like, don't you have like some stronger language than that, ma'am? So we'll be covering those topics today. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website and all that stuff, so you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch. It is the first day of Black History Month. We got these cool Frederick Douglass shirts there at blacktnews.com. We also have where's the Be Better Not Bitter shirt? Well, I'm not the victim you're looking for, but here's a Be Better Not Bitter. So you guys can check out that merch at the store. We got mugs and so on. I'm gonna really be pimping my books this month, particularly my historical fiction fantasy books that take place during the Civil War era. So I think those would be pretty cool reads during this month, though any other month is fine. But go ahead and check those out. You guys can just search my name on Amazon, or you guys can find all this stuff if you go to blacktnews.com, though. You'll be able to find my stuff. So go ahead and visit the website. Make sure you guys are putting in your email and joining the newsletter. I do not send out enough emails, so you definitely will not be bombarded with emails, but I will get better about that, certainly. So before we jump into, I do have like a meme. You guys know I like to start off with a meme if I find something funny to share. I want to talk about something kind of serious. And I've already touched on this before, but I saw something today that pretty much disturbed me. Just, I don't know, about an hour ago. So I was scrolling through TikTok, and you're probably like, well, that's your mistake, scrolling through TikTok. But hey, it is what it is. I was scrolling through TikTok, and I saw something not on like a left-wing person's page. It was on a right person's page. And it was Nikki Haley. And it was the line about every day I was, teased for being a brown girl. And they decided to, I think they like did up her hair a little bit more, but someone photoshopped her, altered her, and darkened her skin So she was not quite blackface, I guess, but they darkened her skin significantly. She was darker than I am with that quote, and just had like a laughing track playing as the audio. And it disturbed me, and I'm going through the comments, and it was a black guy who's it was is on his page, like a black a Namaga type of guy, I guess. And I'm scrolling through the comments, and there's laughing faces, laughing faces, laughing faces, laughing faces, laughing faces. And so I've already talked about this subject about Nikki Haley, and I don't like the sort of rhetoric that's surrounding her race and her experience as a young brown child in the post Jim Crow South. Um, she said that she was teased every day for being brown. That's probably an exaggeration. We can give her grace and be like, it was probably an exaggeration. Does Nikki Haley lean into identity politics more than most people would probably like? Sure. Um, I don't like lines like that. My heels are have ammunition or they're loaded or something. Just like, what does that mean? Anyway, I'm not trying to defend Nikki Haley here because I'm some kind of big Nikki Haley stan. I just think that with politics, you may not like whoever is on your ballot, but your integrity is always on the ballot every day with every decision that you make. And you don't have to compromise yourself and behave poorly just because you don't like certain people, or a certain someone is going against someone that you prefer. Now, originally, in the past, it would be Democrats who would come for Nikki Haley. Like there was episodes of The View and so on of people talking about Nikki Haley and her how she goes by Nikki rather than her first name, which Nikki is her middle name. It is actually part of her name. Um, as if she's trying to deny her heritage to appeal more to white people. And I can't say people perhaps don't do that in politics and wouldn't do just about anything to get ahead. Don't know if that's the case, but it is true that Nikki is her name. Vivek, when he came onto the scene, his team did play into that kind of stuff. One time, on a fact check website that they had, they did like the kind of the same name thing, which they didn't even spell her Nimarita name correctly. And as they kind of mocked her, and the day when he was on the debate stage and he held up the sign that said corruption and went on that big rant, he like bypassed a question regarding a bunch of stuff that he did to essentially call her out as a poser, I guess, as someone who's trying to whitewash her heritage to go along. And more than just the name from the allegations of the questioner is also like stuff regarding her religion. So the religion thing I hadn't heard of. So I would have liked to hear him explain it, but he went on a different route. He just kind of dismissed it so he could go along with the Nikki Haley is corrupt sign thing. So Vivek's team's been doing that. I think he does a lot of things where I can certainly call him a jerk. But people on the right, like libs of TikTok, shared early photos of Nikki Haley younger and mocking the idea, I guess, that she was teased for being brown, even though she's clearly so light. So my friend, this is Savvy, said something about it and said how disgusting that was. And I responded, and I showed her tweet at the time. This was about maybe 2 weeks ago or so. And people were like, oh, well, we could say this because she's into identity politics. And Savannah's just like, no, you still have to do the right thing. You still have to act appropriately. It's not right to act this way. So, as I said then at the time, and I will reiterate now, it is not unbelievable that growing up in the post Jim Crow South, that she would be treated differently for being Indian. That is, I love this country. I think it's the best country on the planet. Wouldn't rather be anywhere else. I don't buy into a lot of this hyper racist stuff that the left pushes. But let's be real. There are garbage people on this planet. There are racist people on this planet. Our older generations have dealt with things that current generations that complain about just about everything, these microaggressions or whatever, had to deal with some real stuff. It is not unbelievable that Nikki Haley and her family had to go through things in the South. And you know what? I can explain how I, I had to deal with ignorant people when I went to an urban school in my hometown. And when we moved out to a rural area where I was one of the only Black kids in my graduating class, I had to deal with ignorant kids out there. And I would deal with questions and comments that were, as I said, ignorant. I would deal with them patiently, um, as respectfully as possible, sometimes quite firmly. There were times where people just weren't getting it, and I had to. One time, I felt like I pulled my school out of a scandal, and I've told the story before. I'm not going to jump into it today. Um, but no one throughout all my experiences, like I know people, some of my siblings have met people who had family that were in the Klan. um, but no one ever called me, and I'm just gonna say the word, a nigger to my face before. But someone called my sister that, my younger sister, who's lighter than I am. And she's lighter than Nikki Haley. So if people are going around saying on the right, mocking Nikki Haley for calling her brown, is the accusation now that maybe I'm not Black or my sister's not Black? So I don't like this colorism thing, because if my sister put on a MAGA hat and said Democrats suck, vote MAGA Trump 2024, it's, oh, the Black people are voting for Trump. So I don't like it, guys. And we don't we're not our both our parents are Black, you know. Well, we all have the same parents, but our parents are Black. My dad is really light skinned though, strong genes. His dad was very dark. His mom very light, and she would sometimes, when she was a little girl, pretend to be Italian. So they wouldn't make her go to the back of the bus. They're like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "I'm Italian." And when she was a little girl, her mother, who was dark, would tell her, when you go to the store, don't acknowledge your father. Like, don't like say he's your father. Because if people found out that he was Black, then he would be fired from his job. So he passed, so he could work and provide for his family. So that's the history of the country. It's just a reality. And it's nothing that anyone has to take and wear it on their sleeve every day. You work as hard as you can. You make whatever decisions that you can as an individual, and hope that everyone will see you that way and treat you that way. And if we could learn to do that, we'd have a lot less racism. Unfortunately, today, so many people are so dead set on seeing issues of racism that they find kind of the wrong solutions to fix it, and it just exacerbates the problem. Um, but people mocking Nikki Haley, and I get it. People don't like her. She's running against Trump. She's neocon. Folks don't like her. I understand. Knock it off. Knock it off. Just stop with the racist stuff. You don't have to do. You don't have to just darken her skin as a joke. Just stop it. Just stop it. people would know that she was not a white child. She's Indian. People refer to Indian people as brown people. I'm obviously not black. My hair is kind of black. It's pretty black. Um, my skin doesn't match my hair, but I'm still referred to as a black woman. But if people are going to mock Nikki Haley because she's not brown enough, am I not black enough? We wouldn't say that. Folks on the right wouldn't say that, especially when they want a minority to put on a MAGA hat and stomp for Trump and stuff. So just because Nikki Haley's going up against them, just because she wants to pump money into Ukraine and pump money to Israel and, you know, have you sign up by your name on social media or whatever, and a bunch of things you don't like, doesn't mean that you get to compromise your integrity if you had any to start with. So again, I will say these people are on the ballot, and you can choose to not vote for them if you don't want to. You can vote for someone else, but your integrity is on the ballot every single day. So cast your ballot wisely. Anyway, you're welcome, Ellie. Ellie said thank you for sharing. It needs to be said. I'll probably share it on other platforms, and I'll respond directly to that video that I saw on TikTok. I'll probably write something down. I'm I saw Libs TikTok share stuff. I saw Candace Owens say stuff. She did a segment on her show. I find the way she attacked Nikki Haley on that versus like how much grace and backflip she did to defend Kanye West after he said the DEFCON 3 on the Jews, or DEFCON 5 on the Jews, or whatever it was. His tweet was like she did the Matrix bending back slow motion to kind of stand up for him and what he said. But I'm sure Nikki Haley wasn't teased every day for being brown, but she went into some of her stories, life stories or whatever, on the Breakfast Club. I mentioned that I watched it yesterday. We talked about it. And I don't know whether you like her or not. I thought it was an interesting interview. I don't know if it'll change anyone's minds about her, but I don't. The right will keep insisting that America's not a racist place. Well, don't contribute. We won't say there's no racism because we'll point to the left and be like, oh yeah, those white liberals are racist. We'll say that in a flash. Say that in a hot second. So you don't you be a contributing factor to this. Please don't. I'm well, I didn't do it, so I'm not gonna say I feel embarrassed because it's not me who's doing it. It's other people. I'm disappointed and disgusted. So please knock it off and do better. Please. Anyway, let's look at a meme and get to the stories of the day. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard about the story. It's a hot story today. Other folks have already mentioned it on their shows, but there were some illegal aliens who were attacking some police officers in New York, and they're already like out on bail. So there's different memes. Some people have put Joe Biden on his face, but they're like basically like, this man sums up Joe Biden's America. And so Right to Bear memes, probably the best one so far, with Joe Biden just giving him a medal here and rewarding him. And by the way, he's just giving the finger after, he just got out of court after taking advantage of our open borders and being here in the US and attacking our police officers and getting off with no bail, just being released. That's what you do. Just throw up the bird, flip the bird off or whatever you say. This is Joe Biden's America. It is Joe Biden's America. So if you haven't seen the site, let me show you a little bit of it. And this is crazy. Now, as I already said at the top of the hour, Hochul, the governor, has already said, "Oh, well, we need to look into that." And I guess if they're going to deport them, and maybe they'll just slip away. So who knows? Um, Folks aren't gonna. You would think they wouldn't take kindly to attacking cops, and then coming out and you just have no remorse and you're just doing the finger and stuff. You would think that they would be off and about. But New York is a sanctuary city, and they don't handle crime well right now anyway. So this is just, I don't know, a cloud of dysfunction that's just the perfect storm in New York. If you're wondering why the title is "What Happens When They Don't Send Their Best," that is a line from Donald Trump when he ran in 2016, and people just hated his rhetoric regarding this topic with immigration. Now, many people loved it, and people loved it enough to really propel him to getting the not really the majority, but the plurality of the vote. That was enough to basically get him to the finish line, right? But he okay, immigration, it's a big topic. I'm going to be the one who is hawkish on this topic. And he talked about it nonstop. He talked about it without remorse. He talked about it bluntly. And he said they're not sending their best. So when you have all these people coming in with these asylum claims that aren't real, and they have perhaps criminal history themselves, and they're going and attacking not just police officers, but these folks have other histories of theft and attacking other folks. And one of them attacked a woman at, I think, Nordstrom or something. You're scratching your head and saying, "Oh my gosh, did Trump have a point here?" I mean, at first they come and they're breaking the law coming in, so that's already a red flag. You could come in the right way. Now, people want to reform immigration and say, "Oh, it shouldn't take 10 years to become a citizen, etc., blah, blah, blah," which, I've heard some complicated immigration stories, so that's valid. But there's people who wait, and they come in on merit, and they want to really contribute and assimilate into the country. And then you have people who just are these grown men who come in who don't have legitimate asylum claims, so they're taking advantage of the system. By the way, Anna Kasparian, who's on the Young Turks, she mentioned that these guys are taking advantage of the asylum claims, and it's a privilege to come here to the United States of America, and people are angry at her, no, it's a right to seek asylum. Yeah, you seek asylum at the safest country possible or whatever. No, you don't have to come all the way to the United States. And Joe Biden, again, folks, needs to just reinstitute the Remain in Mexico policy where they say if they have an asylum claim, they have to wait in Mexico before coming to the United States and just expecting to be here. And if they're going to come here and cross the border, they need to be detained until they have some kind of day in court, as opposed to us releasing folks into the interior and telling them their date is 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever, from now. But here's a little bit about this story.
This insane video. A group of migrants in New York City are arrested after attacking NYPD officers in Times Square. 5 were arrested and 4 are already released without bail.
All right, the brawl started when 2 officers were trying to break up a rowdy crowd near a migrant shelter on 42nd Street. While arresting one of the men, the other said, "Hey, I'm not going to just sit there. I'll jump in. I'll start kicking. I'll start punching the officers. After all, I don't belong in this country anyway."
Crazy, crazy, crazy. So they were arrested, but, released out on bail.
Just into Fox News now, NYPD making 2 more arrests, illegal immigrants, and that attack on officers. Those suspects also allegedly stole an officer's cell phone. Well, that'll help them track you down. So a 5th illegal immigrant accused of attacking 2 New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret. He was seen, as you can see, giving his 2 middle fingers to the cameras moments after being released without bail. Florida Senator Marco Rubio wrote, "Message to America from one of the illegal immigrants who assaulted NYPD officers, walked free with no bail, and heads back to a shelter funded by taxpayers." So far, police have shared 4 mugshots of the now 7 people arrested in connection with the brutal beatings in Times Square.
So, these Democrats were like, oh, well, attacking a cop, they should be deported, or if they go to these, they have their hearings, they're not going to take kindly to that and assume they're going to be deported and get what's coming to them, I suppose. Yeah, we shouldn't have to feel like that's the only time people who've done wrong or committing crimes are going to be deported, is if they attack some kind of official or something, right? Some kind of public servant. What if they just attack you? What if they just attack your neighbor, trespass on your property, steal your stuff? In my state, in Oakland County, one of the most prosperous, I guess, counties in the country, actually, but it's got some not prosperous areas, guys. But in Oakland County, they have gangs of illegal immigrants who are coming together and just robbing people's houses. They're just robbing people's houses. And if you have, like, I don't know, systems, cameras or whatever, like Ring or whatever, they're like finding a way to just go with the Wi-Fi and shut stuff down so you're not going to catch them on camera. So I don't know if people got to go back to wired or what, or do both to try to protect their property, but people are going in and robbing people's homes. So this is not something that is just an issue down at the border. This is not something that is just an issue in New York. This is not something that's just not an issue in Chicago. This is not something that's just an issue in Arizona. It's not just an issue in Denver. It's an issue right at your door. It's an issue right at my door, right? It's a problem. It's a problem. And I see people really, really trying to lean into Republicans aren't doing the deal, therefore it's bad on them. I complained about Nikki Haley not being strong enough when Charlemagne and them brought it up the other day on the Breakfast Club, because they're like, well, Trump's trying to keep people from doing something, and she's like, yeah, that's bad if Trump's doing that or whatever, and we need the problem solved now, and they need to do it right. And like, okay, but Joe Biden can do something right now, and it's really on this man. It is really on this man. He can do something. I saw people, trying to do TikTok lives talking about all the Republicans. First of all, you don't know what all the things are in the deal are. So before you complain about Republicans not liking the deal or accepting the deal, or people shoot it down, you need to know exactly what it is they're proposing, because it could make things exceptionally worse, especially if they're trying to like codify something not good into law. But we do know that Joe Biden, instead of reversing all the things that he immediately reversed that Trump did that was actually good for stopping all these people coming in at the border, he could just reverse the reversal and go back to Trump's policies. Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean that they didn't do a good job. It doesn't mean that they did a good thing, that they didn't do a good thing. And I know that you have to claim that they didn't do a good thing. Well, I know that's how politics work, but the truth is we're beyond politics now, because you actually have the job. You're actually the president of the United States, and you're actually responsible for a whole lot of freaking people. You're responsible for a lot of people, and what you do actually matters. Not your rhetoric matters. Your rhetoric does matter, but it's more than your rhetoric. What you actually do for people matters so much. So you can go beyond yourself and just admit defeat on this. You don't even have to like verbally say it. You could just do the action. Show people that you're willing to compromise for the safety and well-being for the American people. And the people would probably even feel better about voting for you, because they don't like Trump anyway. But he won't even do that. So I already said that Trump has a talent for having just the worst enemies. And it doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but you get what I'm saying. Like he can do some things that make you scratch your head or scream to the skies. And yet there's someone who's worse than him that's just like, but you know what? Trump had a point. And facing with these two opponents, the border is such a crazy crisis right now. And again, it's not just a Texas issue. It's not just where Texas sends some of these people. There are people gathering together to rob your house. And I'm not saying, Americans don't do that. But these people certainly aren't supposed to be there. And you don't know who's coming in with what connections to what gang, what cartel. And beyond people who are from Mexico, there's people coming from all over, because you don't know what kind of people with what kind of connections people have over in the Middle East who might want to do some harm. And even if Trump gets in and is like, we're going to mass deport people, I wonder what kind of, considering all the millions of people who are here, I wonder even what kind of, I don't know, issues there could be with that. I just don't expect that. Even I don't expect him to just start deporting like millions and millions of people on day one. I just don't. But even if he did, I just don't think that would go extraordinarily smoothly. We're just in a bad spot because of this incompetence. But I'm glad they're like disturbed in New York that this happened. But it shouldn't take for police officers to be assaulted for people to consider these things to be serious. Because everyday people are suffering. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anyway, moving on. I want to bring this up very quickly. Joe Biden, as a president, sometimes you have to make the terrible call to families, informing them that they have lost a loved one. And Joe Biden had to do this. And the media caught this moment here. And I wanted to share it because there's something puzzling that Joe Biden continues to do. And I find it pretty disrespectful. I think a lot of people find it disrespectful. I don't think the mother here on the call, the parents here on the call, caught it or really thought much of it. They just appreciated hearing the president and that he was honoring their daughter. But us from the outside looking in are just kind of like, why do you keep doing this, Joe? So without further ado, here's a clip.
President Biden calling Oneida and Sean Sanders, whose 24-year-old daughter Kennedy was killed in the attack.
I know, everybody, I know there's nothing anybody can say or do to ease the pain. I've been there.
Yes, sir, we understand.
The parents overcome with emotion when the president reveals how their daughter will be honored.
We're promoting her posthumously to sergeant.
Oh, wow, that is the best news I've heard today. Thank you so much. You don't know how much that means to us.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it means a lot to me. My son spent a year in Iraq until I lost him, and 1% of all these kids are the ones that they take care of 99% of us.
So you might already know what I'm about to say, but Bo did not die in Iraq. He didn't. He died from brain cancer some years later. And he keeps repeating it. Now, I understand that Biden believes there's a connection to burn pits and other things that he thinks that have led to cancer. And he says people have gotten more cancer from that time compared to soldiers any other time. I haven't seen data to support that. There's been different fact checks that I was researching, looking at today, that did not align with his theory. There have been stories correcting him. There doesn't seem to be any sort of evidence that there is quite that connection there, and he hasn't really provided that. It's just something that I don't know if he really believes, um, or if that's something he's just maybe he's repeated so much. Maybe that's just how he's dealt with his grief through all these years. Um, but he doesn't have evidence to support that himself. That's just what he keeps saying, and every time we hear some kind of story, not every time, but many times now, when he's talking to these different Gold Star families about their loss, he brings up his son, which I understand. You want to show that you relate to their pain. But in the case of when it happened in Afghanistan, parents are really upset as he kept mentioning that, because they, one, really felt that he was responsible for the pullout and how their children ended up being killed. And they're just like, your son didn't die in duty the way that they died in duty. So trying to say, you know how they feel after they feel that their children aren't around because of you, and you're trying to relate to them because your child died of brain cancer years later, and you're trying to rewrite history. It just comes off in the weirdest kind of way. And I respect Bo's service. I'm not trying to downplay that. And that is a horrible thing to be diagnosed with and go through and pass away with. That's a terrible thing to experience, I assume, as an individual, and to have to watch that and endure that as a father, to bury your child. I hope I never have to go through something like that. But it's not the same. So it doesn't seem like that bothered the parents at all, or they caught it or thought about it or whatever. But he didn't die in Iraq. He died years later from brain cancer. So why keep repeating this? It's so bizarre. It's so bizarro. So anyway, I see that I had a typo. Someone mentioned it in my comments. I see you. Thank you. Anyway, let's move on. So Fani Willis is in some hot water with some different allegations regarding her case with Trump. And there's people like, oh, it's going to get thrown out. I don't know if it's going to get thrown out. It's possible it could get delayed. But there was some breaking news the other night from the Free Beacon with a whistleblower report. And with this whistleblower, they were saying that this whistleblower was reported on some different misuse of funds, and not too long afterwards, she ended up being let go, which you're not supposed to fire whistleblowers. So breaking, Free Beacon has obtained audio of the whistleblower privately warning Fani Willis in 2001 that her top aide was trying to misuse federal funds. Willis did not dispute the allegations. 56 days later, Willis fired the whistleblower and walked her out of the office. So I'm going to go ahead and play that.
If you had to give me a sentence, what is the sentence theme?
Once I told him about his, respectfully and in an email, about his lack of leadership and the fact that he wanted to do things with grants that were impossible. And I kept telling him, like, we can't do that, and questioning stuff. He would take me off projects, tell people I wasn't doing what I was supposed to because I questioned him. Because I understood, I helped write that grant. I knew what was in that grant. He told everybody in front of Crystal, Deontay, everybody, we're going to get MacBooks, we're going to do that, we're going to get swag, we're going to use it for travel. I said, you cannot do that. It's a very, very specific grant. Took me off. I questioned Junior DA. There's kids in there from out of the county, all this. took me off junior DA. I did not want to do it. He made it look as if I wasn't doing what I needed to do because I questioned him. Because I knew for a fact Mr. Cuffey respectfully did not know what he was doing. Period.
So I respect that as your assessment. It was clear to me that you and Mr. Cuffey were not getting along. And I'm not saying that your assessment is wrong. I want you to really listen to the words I'm saying.
Cuffey, and this is my personal opinion, to one woman to another, is dangerous to your administration. He tells people, when I reached out to you, he told me, you think your word is safe? Exactly when you reached out to Miss Willis, she called me and told me, she tell me everything. So once you reach out to her, she's going to reach back out to me. So I didn't even go to HR because he put Dexter's name on my PDP and I didn't even feel safe going to anybody.
Can I tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 supervisors that have failed in this building. What's interesting to me, because I'm in a learning curve too, they each pretend to have a relationship with me that they do not have. Mm-hmm. I guess that's an intimidation tactic. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry that you felt that way, but Dexter certainly don't have no relationship with right. Michael Cuffey. You were safe to go those places.
So that's what the Free Beacon released. That's messed up, man. Hurt, and then Fani, she tried to downplay the I guess their relationship, and that people just try to kind of talk that up. But if someone came to you about different stuff and you're a leadership, you don't go back and kind of run and tell those other folks, yeah, they told on me, when it's like kind of some serious stuff like that. Anyway, that's just on top of some different allegations that she had. So I'm going to read through this Forbes article. It's not too long. But I don't know. Well, she's claiming she won't step away from the case. And I don't know if someone will make her step down or whatever. So this might all go according to the timeline that she's seeking. Maybe nothing will be delayed, but if she cared about this case, it's a monumental case to make a name for yourself, to prosecute a former president. She's fundraised off of it. So to step aside after all this, I would imagine she wouldn't want to do that. But if she actually cared about the case and what she feels is justice, first and foremost above anything else, then she should step aside so someone else could handle the case without the sort of scandal behind it. Because Trump and his allies and everyone's just going to point and say, this woman is clearly corrupt. We can see she's clearly corrupt, and she's corrupt, and she didn't come after me in good faith. She didn't come after everyone else in good faith, charging me racketeering. That was always sketchy, but she just wanted to come after me, and she'll do everything she needs to get ahead. And that's her character is on the line here. And that's actually why she's coming after me, to make a name for herself, etc. And so he's just, whether that works to make her step down or whatever, whether that works in the Democrat circles or moderate circles to, I don't know, make them more sympathetic to Trump or not, Trump's going to have power, at least on his side, with that narrative. So if she would like to remove that power of that narrative, she should step aside from this case, obviously. But she obviously doesn't want to, because it's a career move, man. Fulton County District, Fulton County. Oh, by the way, I did fix the typo. Thank you. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has no plans to recuse herself in the office's election interference case against former President Donald Trump, amid allegations that she had a clandestine relationship with one of the lead prosecutors, CNN reported, rebuffing calls from Trump and his allies for her to step aside. Willis, who has not publicly responded to the allegations, plans to argue that she has not breached any laws that would require her to step aside in the case, or CNN reported, citing sources familiar with her thinking. Willis has faced intense backlash since one of Trump's co-defendants in the Georgia election interference case, Mike Rowan, alleged in January court filing that she hired lead prosecutor in the case, Nathan Wade, after the two had a clandestine relationship. His attorneys wrote, accusing Willis of violating ethical standards and creating an impermissible conflict of interest. Rowan's attorneys did not provide direct evidence on Willis's alleged relationship with Wade, instead citing unnamed sources, though credit card statements revealed in Wade's divorce proceedings show he paid for flights for her to Miami and San Francisco, which Wade's wife argued can only be explained by a romantic relationship. Some legal experts have expressed doubts there is legal standing to force Willis or Wade off the case, but others have suggested one or both should voluntarily remove themselves, as the allegations threaten to taint the case in the eyes of jurors and raise ethical questions. I tell her to get out of the case. I really think this type of case with these allegations, this case is bigger than any one prosecutor. CNN legal analyst and former Georgia U.S. Attorney Michael Moore told the network, I think probably to preserve the case, to show what's most important to her is the facts of the Trump case as opposed to her political career, if you will, at this moment. If Willis were to recuse herself, it could potentially delay the case and push the trial beyond the November general election, as a statewide council of prosecutors would need to reassign the case. Willis has proposed an August 5th trial date in the case, which charges Trump and 18 co-defendants with racketeering and other felonies related to their alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election result in Georgia. Willis has not publicly responded to the allegations outside of a statement she made before a church congregation. Going to the church, on January 14th, defending Wade's qualifications and questioning whether her adversaries were playing the race card. Willis was subpoenaed to testify in the divorce case before it was settled on Tuesday. Contesting the subpoena request, she accused Wade's wife, Jocelyn Wade, of obstructing and interfering with the prosecution against Trump in an effort to harm her reputation. Friday is Willis's deadline to respond to allegations. She could also be called to testify February 15th at a February 15th hearing, where both sides will present evidence. The GOP-led Georgia state legislature also voted last week to form a special committee to investigate Willis. So if she cares the most about this case, and they, people are saying it's bigger than her, then she should step aside. But the pickle is that they want to make sure that this case is tried before November, because they obviously do want it to impact the election. Now, and that's, I think, politically obvious. And I guess you could make a case that you'd want the American people to have all the facts before they decided. I guess you could make the case that it needs to be tried before then. But obviously, it's very hard for Trump and his team to prepare for all of these trials going on. It's going to be hard for him to prepare for them anyway, because it just seems like he doesn't hire the best lawyers. I know a lot of people like Alina Habab or whatever. She is, some of the stuff I've read about her doing in court just seems so crazy. And I've read some other things that she's done that seem kind of shady. And Trump did put out like a post on Truth Social that he would be like interviewing law firms for his repeal on the E. Jean Carroll case. Which is probably for the best. But it's probably hard for Trump to find, a lot of really good lawyers, because one, if you don't tell him what he wants to hear, it kind of seems like he's just going to ignore what you say anyway. And a lot of lawyers, at the end of the day, they want to represent their client, and they want to, do well, and they want to have a good record because they want to be able to win other cases and stuff, right? But if you have a client that makes things really difficult to you and won't actually take your legal advice, and then you end up losing because of the rhetoric and the behavior of your client, why would you subject yourself to that? So he's gonna be attracting people who want to make a name for themselves and are probably in it for the wrong kind of reasons. So he's a lot to fight off, obviously, in this year, which is something apparently the voters who have voted thus far, and according to polling, I don't know if they thought all the way through it, but they have decided is worth going through the gauntlet of his trials through the election year. And we'll see where all the chips fall come November, and if there's just a wave of support from people who are sympathetic to him, or if it really hinders his chances of being the president once again. So anyway, fascinating stories today. I if Willis recusing herself would end up delaying the trial so much, and if they don't really have a great legal basis for her to step aside on it, now maybe they could find some kind of other legal basis to get her out of her job. Maybe that's a different case, but I don't see her stepping aside. She should just fire her boyfriend, I guess. If that's the easiest option between the two, I would assume that's probably what she would go with. But I would assume that she's probably the type of person who's going to just power her way through it and just try to have it all. Anyway, that's the show for today. But before I let you go, it is the first day of Black History Month, and I saw some people share some stuff about Clarence Thomas and recommend his documentary and stuff, Created Equal. I saw that documentary. You can watch it. You can get it on Amazon. But you can, if you have a Daily Wire subscription, you guys can watch it there. It was well worth watching. So many people want to dismiss Clarence Thomas because, of course, they don't really like his judicial philosophy, but they try to belittle his blackness because he doesn't ascribe to a particular political philosophy or judicial philosophy, and he doesn't wear his heartache and his hardships on his sleeve. That he's doesn't have a warped way of thinking. He wasn't warped from the world. And they try to kind of make it seem like he didn't really have he doesn't have a black perspective or black experience when or whatever you would say that is, but he does. If you watch his history, where he came from, there was a time where he was just as angry and just as radical as many of these people out here, but he had to have a come to Jesus moment. And he was discouraged by race and the racial sort of behavior of the United States, and how people weren't really taking a firm stand against it, how the church wasn't taking a firm stand against it, in his opinion. I guess particularly the Catholic Church, because he's Catholic, and he did some things that he wasn't proud of. And when he just took a pause to just evaluate himself, he's like, I cannot allow anger to dictate my life like this. And he prayed for God to do a change in him, to take that anger away. And so there's a lot of people out here with a lot of hurts and wounds, and I think many skewed perceptions of the world, and they need to have that come to Jesus moment, whatever you want to call it, and just say, can I allow myself to be ruled by this hate that I feel, or can I be the positive change to impact the world in a more positive sort of manner? So after that, he got his head back on straight and really started doing the work, and then eventually kind of fell into and discovered his judicial philosophy. And it's a really fascinating story, and I wish more people who disliked him would take the time to learn more about him, because his life was definitely harder than a lot of people who probably hate him. So I recommend people check it out. But before I close you out and let you go, and I'm gonna play this quote from Clarence Thomas that I really like, that I keep queued up for times such as these. Sorry.
You can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
Right is still right. North is still north. You could circle that all the way back to the first topic that I talked about today. Like, at the end of the day, right and wrong still matters. You have to always protect your integrity and just do the right thing. Even if you have to stand alone, north is still north, even if everyone is pointing the other direction, trying to lie to you about which way you're supposed to go or whatever. You keep pointing north. Thank you guys for watching. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a streaming room and website, all the stuff, so you guys can support in that way. I do very much appreciate it. Also, check out different merch at the store. We got pro-life merch. We got the "You Are Not That Special" shirts and mugs. Those are kind of funny. But we got black tea mugs, etc. So go ahead and check that out. Check out some of my books that I have. If you search my name on Amazon, you'll find my stuff. Go to Black Tea News and drop in your email and so on. Join the mailing list. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow.